Part 2. Hi guys. I told you I was passionate about this subject, and so passionate that my time limit was reached for my screencaster. So, part 2. So we were talking about how you apply a lens of equity and inclusiveness when looking at the social studies curriculum. So for an example, I chose grade 4. The strand is people and environments, and the topic for grade 4 in that strand is political and physical regions. Then I picked the overall expectation under the understanding context, which is identify Canada's political and physical regions and describe their main characteristics and some significant activities that take place in them. So that's the overall expectation, and then the specific one that I picked that goes with that overall expectation is identify various types of political regions in Canada and describe some of their basic similarities and differences. So you could look at that and find activities or do activities that fulfill those expectations. How do you make this more inclusive? Well, students get to choose what political region they'd like to research. Okay, so they could choose a province or a territory or a municipality or a First Nation community. Okay, they choose that. Students can choose how they'd like to present their knowledge. So you're not just giving them a test on these things. Okay, are they going to make a play about it? Are they going to do a photo essay? Are they going to make a podcast? Okay? All different ways that students can show you what they know. And then again, different students have different equitable expectations. So students working on IEPs or Modify students are still working on those topics, but with different expectations. Okay? How can you make this culturally responsive and culturally relevant? Well, maybe if you have a student that's recently come to Canada from another country, they might like to also share, their own political system in the country that they came from, or a country that one of their relatives is living in. Okay? And how to respond to the Truth and Reconciliation Commission calls to action about Indigenous perspectives. So I would invite students to research how Indigenous people self-governed before the Europeans colonized Canada. In fact, I would argue why that isn't in the curriculum already. It's not. We can put it there. Are there any Indigenous communities that are truly still self-governing? Are all band councils the same? And who created the idea of band councils? And how are they regulated? How do the Métis govern? What about the Inuit? Okay, so having a critical stance and looking at the curriculum from an equity lens, where who's missing, whose voice isn't heard. Other strategies when you're teaching social studies to make it inclusive for all students. Make it personal. So you can do projects with them where they collect oral history from their families. They can make mini-me museums, which are really fun little things about their life and their history and their relationship to where they live. Make it visual, so lots of timelines, lots of markers, maps, graphic organizers, using a lot of primary source documents, letters, diaries, journals, interviews, okay? Have maps in your classroom that you add on to incidentally, so where, I've stuck stickers on maps that don't have the names of communities my students are from. As you learn, you can also put things on the map, okay? And make it interactive. Go on field trips. It's different with COVID, absolutely, but there's so many places you can go virtually. inviting community members into your class. Again, right now that's hard to do, but you can still invite them over Zoom. Students can teach each other what they know. They can put on a radio show. They can put on a play. You can have lots of debates in history, okay? These draw everybody in and make it inclusive and will ultimately, I argue, make your teaching so much more fulfilling for you too. Other ways that I've gone about creating inclusive classrooms is having a pet. The students raised the money for the pet. They decided on the name of the pet. They take care of the pet. They teach others how to take care of the pet. The pet hops around our classroom. This is our class bunny named Wapsh. Here he is eating a book, and she totally knows what to do about that. Student-led teaching. This is a really amazing tool that empowers students so much as they take on a topic that they'd like to teach the class. I had them basically propose their lesson to me, and then they come up with a Google slideshow or a PowerPoint and they teach a lesson. This boy here, Isaac, I taught him for 3 years and he taught our class so many things. He taught us about the Great Caribou Migration. He taught us about the history of currency. He taught us about, the Jamaican immigrants who came to Toronto in the 1960s. His father was one of those. So just amazing. And then what happens is that sometimes when you have a new student in your class and they might be struggling to fit in, you can have a student like Isaac be a mentor to them. And so here Isaac is mentoring Nigel on how to create a presentation. School responsibilities, can't say enough about this. Students can get involved with things around the school, cooking for guests, mentoring young kids. This is a huge part of them feeling connected to the school, like they have a reason for coming every day. That's really what we want, is our students to be excited to come, and they all really can. And I'll leave you with a final story about this boy. I taught him for many years, and he's still struggling to read and write. He has some very severe learning differences, and this is him teaching a group of guests to our school about Bear Witness Day, which is the day where we remember Jordan River Anderson, who was a Cree boy who died without ever going home from the hospital, which you've learned about in this course if you hadn't already. And this student is standing up, giving a talk to adults who had come to learn from him and learn from us about this day. So these opportunities for all kids to be involved in learning, for all kids to feel a sense of belonging and purpose, this is the secret ingredient to really meaningful learning and teaching. So I hope that this Lisa talk made sense to you. I hope that something in it resonated with you, and hopefully you can look at curriculum through a lens of equity and inclusiveness, because we really need to put on those glasses. So thank you, and see you soon.